The winner of the 2024 Crabo Breaking Barriers in Canada Award goes to The Diary of a Onyie Immigrant.
Dear Diary, are you in for this ride with me? Let's jump in.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Diary of the Onyie Immigrant podcast. I am so excited. Like you guys already know, I'm always excited whenever we have an episode, but I'm really excited today because it's going to be a very rich one today. And the Diary of a Onyie Immigrant is for you all. It's your diary. It's not just mine. It's everybody's diary, just for people to share their experiences, what they have learned, how to grow from whatever they have gone through. And at the end of the day, so other people can also relate with their stories and feel less alone. I remember moving here and I just felt like it was just me going through everything I was going through, but just listening to other people, and I was like, oh, it's not just me. Like, we're all in this together. But when you're in that situation, it can feel so alone and feel so isolating. But when you have, like, you hear stories, other people's stories, you can understand and feel encouraged and know that whatever it is you're going through right now, it's going to be fine. And it's not permanent. There's always a better future. We have a very interesting episode. This month is Family Violence Prevention Month, the month of November. And I was like, when I was thinking, who's going to be a guest on this episode? I was like, I know. None other than the very amazing Mr. Ife and Dr. Dami Adingupu of the MarriageAdvocates Canada and the ThrivingRelationshipsNow organizations. I'm sure you guys have heard. I'm sure you're like, we've heard her say it's marriage advocates. Yeah, I always say marriage advocates. And I also shared my experience and things that my husband and I went through when we first moved and how we're able to navigate that and how the marriage advocates have been very instrumental in helping us move forward and just be happier and thrive in our relationship. That's very, very cliche, but yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this couple are just doing the Lord's work, making it work for couples who like immigrant families. And yeah, they are dedicated to equipping couples with the skills to build strong and lasting relationships. And with years of experience as certified marital and premarital coaches, they have supported families worldwide. Did you hear that? Worldwide in their journeys towards relationship and relational growth. Together, they authored The Thriving Relationships, a couple's guide to relational transformations. They've been married for over 13 years and partners for more than 21 years. Oh my world. They bring both professional expertise and personal insights to their mission for helping couples thrive. And I am so excited to introduce to you guys, drum rolls please, Ife and Dami. Welcome you guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, I am so excited. Like, yeah, it's been a long time coming. I feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, like you guys coming on the show.
Yeah.
And then just hearing that November is a month that highlights like family, like domestic violence in families. I was like, yeah, because you guys have so much experience with that. But like, I have introduced you guys enough. I've talked enough. Can you guys please tell us more about the Marriage Advocates, Thriving Relationships Canada, and all of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you start.
Ladies first.
Chivalry is well and alive. The Marriage Advocates Canada started officially as a registered organization about 2 years ago. But before registration, we had done a little bit of work within our community. And it was out of a lot of news that we heard during COVID, where it was becoming apparent that a lot of families, immigrant families, were struggling. Of course, before COVID, we all had our mostly 9 to 5. So if you don't like your spouse, you really didn't have to put up with them.
You go to work the
You
next
go
day and forget about them
exactly.
for
So you
have
had
some hours. Yeah.
absolutely you had an outlet. But during COVID, couples did not have an outlet. So those that were not doing well went to bad went to worse, and when worse went to, unfortunately, divorce and domestic violence for a lot of families. So we were hearing about that within our community, and we were mentoring a few couples during that time as well. Just prior to COVID, we had made friendships with a few couples, and we were mentoring them. They were new immigrants as well, and the stories were just similar to what we were hearing in the community. That families, especially immigrant families, we have a lot more stressors to cope with on top of normal marital issues that families and couples have to go through. We have a lot to grapple with in that we have to leave everything we have back home and come here. We have to look for jobs. We've got children. We don't have grandma and grandpa to bail us out. There's a lot. And then there's a lot of culture shock as well, because dynamics are different from back wherever home is to here in this climb. So a lot of families were struggling. And we literally just took a stock and thought, oh, hold up, their story is not actually very far from ours. The only reason we believed we were able to do differently is because we had support, we had mentorship, we had coaching, we went to a whole lot of kind of marital seminars and so on in that early years of our marriage. But when you hear of their story, it parallels to a lot of the stories of our aunts and uncles that are also immigrant in countries like the US and in the UK, which is where we moved from. So we saw that what couples are going through now is what couples prior to our time went through and didn't navigate very well. A lot of them dysfunctional marriages, divorces and separation, or you stay in it and die in it, although you're literally dying daily. So we kind of asked ourselves, and there were Christians. So we would say there were a lot of kind of God moves within that story as well. But the summary of it is that after taking stock and realizing we had a privilege, and the privilege was that we found ourselves in a community where they were pouring into young couples, and the older couples were mentoring younger couples, be it unofficially, but they were invested in supporting us. And we asked ourselves, what if families in our community had that? What if we could galvanize, motivate, inspire other people to come? If you have a story, if you've walked through something, if you have navigated marriage, and you can attest that now you're doing it healthily, what if we all put our hands in the race, in the ring for the fight, and fight for other younger couples? What would it look like? If that support we had, we were able to provide it for other families. Would we have a change in statistics? Because the current statistics is that 1 in 3 immigrant families, particularly African immigrant families, will end up in domestic abuse or a separation within 2 to 5 years of landing in Canada.
Wow.
That is research data. So we asked ourselves, what could we do? And we spoke to some leaders within the community, and we were creating content on Instagram and YouTube and stuff. And one particular leader, we told her what we'd been doing. She had seen our post on Instagram and stuff, and she looked at us and said, if you want to be making noise, if you want to keep, very Nigerian, if you want to keep making noise on social media, carry on. But if you want to make an impact, start a nonprofit. We were naive. We thought,
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. Where she said we were really naive, and we just said, okay, let's do it. What's gonna happen? But
Do you regret that now?
Oh no, no, no.
Okay.
my lack
Oh,
of
no,
sleep.
no, no, no,
My lack
no.
of sleep regrets it, but I don't.
No, I don't. We don't regret it.
Okay.
We are thankful we did it. But 2 years ago, we didn't know what to do, and we decided to use this program from the marriage course, and that's when we did the pilot program and say, okay, let's invest. Let's see what's going to come out from it. From there, let's see what we can learn from pilot. Well, we did it, and we noticed a lot of people started, but they were dropping out because of childcare. So due to that, and we now said, okay, let's see what we can do. But we knew that we did not want just for Christians alone. We wanted for everybody. That's what we are called to do. And the Marriage Advocates Canada is not a religious organization. It's for everyone. People come. When you see the data, you will see Christians, Muslims, Hindus. You see the data that we collect. And we just decided, okay, we had to write our own book. And since then, we started. It took us like how long? Six months to write the book.
To write the couple's guide.
Yeah, the couple's guide.
It was about 9 months, I think, because we
9
joked that it was like giving birth to a baby. Like,
So yeah,
Literally.
So it's
then
about
with the
9 months.
data we got, we applied for a grant, and we got the grant. And since then, it's been great.
Oh wait, you guys started, but everything was out of pocket.
Yeah,
We
used
started
our
with our own money because we knew that was what we're
that's
called.
dedication right there.
Yes.
That's like that serious dedication
Yeah.
right there. Like starting with your own money and then
Yeah.
hoping like this is gonna birth something.
Something.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very fascinating because most times people don't realize that they can get help in this kind of situations. Like even today, I was just chatting with somebody and then she was talking about like her colleague who's going through this and that. And first thing I was like, tell her go to Marriage Advocates. Honestly, like tell her to. And she was like, which one is Marriage Advocate? And then I had to send her the contact and everything. But people really don't know how to get help when they're in that kind of situation. But before I get there, so you found out this whole situation in 2020 because that was when COVID started, right?
So 2020 thereabout, we started to hear the stories. But we had been working with some couples unofficially within the community who were struggling. But I can be a little naive, my husband less so. So I didn't realize
We are women. It's our superpower.
I didn't realize it was a thing that a lot of people were struggling. Because in my naive mind, of course, back home, I was born in Nigeria. I knew that marriage dysfunction was just a norm. Like healthy marriages were more rare than unhealthy marriage was everywhere. But for some reason, I thought when we all left and we moved elsewhere, we learned to do better and be better. Because in my mind, somehow the opportunity we had to learn and go to seminars and go to workshops and be mentored and coached somehow was something that other people would have had the same opportunity to access. For some reason, that was kind of my framing until...
Do you think maybe your background actually influenced that? Because like you guys didn't meet in Nigeria. You didn't get married in Nigeria.
No.
You met in... Now I'm talking like I know them. Yes.
You know.
You guys met in the UK. So you
Yes.
already had a different mindset, right?
Sure.
It's different when you come all the way from Nigeria
Sure.
with that mindset of we have house help. Daddy doesn't have to bath the kids.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Daddy doesn't have to heat up food for the kids because like me, what I used to do back home was I'll cook, like I have a day to batch make meals and then I put in the freezer, and then from work I can call the house up and say, okay, we're eating this soup, or even before I leave, bring out this soup, and then maybe on my way I'm like, okay, can you heat up the soup and make it back?
Right?
Yeah, I'll tell the house help to, like, because I already made the food, so it's just to heat it up and yeah, exactly. But here there's nothing like that. You literally have to, even if you batch make the meals, you
do it all.
You have to do it, but you can't do it alone,
Of course
right? And there's no house help to do it for you. So who else helps you? Is it not the dad, right? Like, so I think you had that background because of where you guys met and where you guys got married. But then if you come from Nigeria, so many men have to unlearn that being head of the home does not mean that you won't do anything, right? And that's where it brings up, like, men are like, how dare you ask me to turn a bar? Are you okay?
No, I would say that it depends on the people you surround yourself with.
Right.
So you can be in the UK like us, you can still be dysfunctional.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're rolling around with the wrong set of people that have that mindset, then there's no way you will fall into that category. But if you have a vision and you know what you want for your marriage, you will find the right crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the difference for us. We knew what we wanted before we got married. So when we found the right crowd, we knew that or the right community, we knew that we had to do the work.
Yeah. But then to just kind of counter what you said about men in Nigeria as a generalization, growing up, whilst mine was what you described in terms of the man thinks he's not supposed to do anything and the woman's supposed to do everything. I actually had role models that were male from back home when I was younger, whose men would wash plates and would cook. I have at least 2 of such men in my life, in my circle, when I was growing up back in Nigeria. So yeah, whilst it's more common for men to not want to do anything, I have to give credit to those few men that I saw were helping their wives when I was growing up back in Nigeria. And then to say, because we grew up in the UK, there are men in the UK, like my husband said, who still held on to those traditions and cultures, the toxic
holding
ones.
on.
And that's what leads to abuse, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, I
Yeah.
might be wrong, but I feel like that's what leads to abuse.
It's one of the reasons.
And for me, I don't think, but like I feel like you're the expert and you can tell us more about that. But abuse is not just physical.
No.
So, like, could you talk more about abuse in general, like
Absolutely.
abuse in families?
So there is, apart from physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, financial, we can go on. Spiritual abuse, yes.
So there are different
That's one of
forms.
the worst.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what have been your experience with some of those? Like, because some people might be listening and they don't understand what you mean. Like, their own is, as long as he hasn't raised a finger,
Oh, gosh.
I'm good. What would be your thoughts towards all of that for people like that?
If I was to kind of tell a man or a woman to watch out if there's abuse, there are key tales to know if you're actually experiencing any of those forms of abuse, whether it's emotional, psychological, spiritual, sexual, financial. One, if you feel like you're in this marriage and you feel like this experience make me feel like I'm losing my mind, there's potentially some form of abuse going on, because you shouldn't be in a marriage where you feel like you're losing your mind. If you're in a marriage and your spouse is coming home and your heart skips, not butterfly in your stomach, but your heart races, you're sweating, you're nervous, or you're scared, either for your safety or for your mental well-being, or because you think they're going to come and beat you down with their words, there's likely some form of abuse. And on the other hand, we've seen what people haven't actually realized that it's abuse, where I don't know how mature we want to be on this podcast, but I'm about to go there.
Let's go. Let's go.
So, one that we're seeing that's a lot more common than I thought was possible was sexual abuse. And now we're not talking rape. We're talking the other side of it, where spouses are punishing each other by withholding sex.
Oh,
Oh, God.
I didn't see that coming.
Yes. That is crazy common. And that is abuse.
How is it abuse? Because some people will be like, why would you say, like, if I'm not in the mood, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to do it.
for a year.
6 months, 4 months. It's not possible.
Like, if you think about the way we're created, right? We're created as sexual beings, right? And then you get into marriage. Now, as a Christian, I was raised that all bets are off once you get into marriage, right? So you get into it, and then every time you upset your spouse or they upset you, that's it. There's not going to be any intimacy in that way. And that could go on for months and months and months. Now, what you could potentially interpret that to be is, now I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, they don't want me, they're cheating on me. Well, now your mind's being abused. And some people go as far as just totally not and then cheating. So they choose to not have sex with their spouse, but then deliberately cheat just to make a point. How is that not abuse?
Right.
So, there's a lot going on out there that we don't even understand it's abuse. Spiritual abuse, for example, is also another thing. So you commit to a marriage, you know your spouse is a Christian, say you're a Muslim and you're like, yeah, I'm fine. You're Christian. I still want your girl. I still want your boy. We'll be okay. Usually this is the other way around. Usually the man who would be a different faith and then opposes the woman's faith when they get into the marriage. So say a person who's totally devoted, yes, I know the scripture says we shouldn't be unequally yoked, yes, but there are some who still make that decision to choose a spouse of a different faith. The spouse often, the ones I've seen, often would say, you'll be okay to practice your faith, we'll be all right. But once they get married, all of that changes. And then you say you want to go practice your faith, fight starts. And they start to make life unbearable for you so that you can't practice your faith.
Wow.
That is spiritual abuse.
You can even say, even with that, even if you're a Catholic and the other one is Pentecostal, yes, that's another one. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
even within the same
within
religion.
with the same, yeah. So you see that, no, you do your own thing and you don't want the other person to do.
You try to stop the other
yes,
person.
you're trying to stop the other person. And it's like, it's wrong.
So that is only abuse if you had already agreed on this was okay before we got into the marriage, right?
It's a tricky one. You can't say it's not abuse even if we're in it. Because what conversation did we have? Because unfortunately, a lot of people are getting into marriage and not having those crucial conversations. You know, he's Muslim, you're Christian, and you all never had a conversation about what you're going to do to merge when you become spouses. So where those conversations were never had. But for some reason in your mind, you thought you'd be fine to continue practicing your faith. Like one recent example that I remember is one is like a Pentecostal Christian and the other one is 7 Days Adventist. But they never, ever, ever thought to discuss what we're going to do when we marry, because the practices of 7 Days Adventists is totally different to Pentecostals. And that became a big bone of contention within the marriage.
So where did they
Not
do their
necessarily
we never got there.
Because I'm very curious because I'm very similar. I'm Anglican. My husband is Catholic. But immediately, because my parents too were like that, my mom was Catholic and my dad is Anglican. So like when they got married, my mom left her church and had to. So I already knew that was going to be my faith. And like I was actually trying to avoid it, like looking for an Anglican spouse and all of that. But it didn't happen. So once I had known that this is going to be my husband, I knew that was something that I was going to compromise on. But there are so many people that don't have that kind of experience and they're like, okay, I don't know what to do here, but like we're just going to wing it. And everybody has their own background. So I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. Don't you feel like it's the fundamental that has been wrong? At that, like the foundation of that marriage is wrong.
Absolutely.
And when the foundation is wrong, do you think there's any hope or anything that can be done at that point?
I would say yes. Something can be done if both of them are willing to work. So depending what is the issue there. So who is ready to say, okay, let's sit down, let's work at this issue. And if you truly love your spouse, then you will work at it. But if you don't, you say you do, then
love is relative.
So there's no way. But I believe that if both of them are willing to work at it, it will work.
On the whole, given that we're still on the spiritual abuse and how it plays out, you said the foundation is wrong in terms of one is a different denomination and the other one is I don't actually believe that. If both denominations...
I'm not saying the denomination. I'm
okay.
saying the fact that they did not have that conversation.
Okay.
Apart from the conversation, and then, because like when I got married, I knew I was going to do all our marriage counseling and everything was in the Catholic church, even though I'm Anglican. Like we got all the certification. In fact, they had to accept me into the Catholic church, and I was willing to do all of those, right? Like that's all what I had to go through for Mr. Kennel B. I was willing to do that, right? So like, if you don't have those conversations, because the first question I ask is, where did they do their wedding? I did my wedding in a Catholic church. So I left my church. So if you're able to leave your church and go to the wife's church to do your wedding there, that means you've already compromised at that point that's going to be your church. If you've decided to leave your church and go to your husband's church to do you've already had that compromise, right? And it's not just about church. even other stuff, like other things that have to do like in life. If you've decided before that, okay, we know I can't have children, and then we get into the marriage, and then you go and you're going for a walk and you see people with their kids at the park, and you're like, you wish, like, isn't that, you already knew the foundation was probably wrong. Like, so I don't know, like, I might be wrong, but do you feel like abuse happens when the foundation is wrong? And like, apart from that, like, if a man is going to hit you, you would know from several ways that he would treat
Or vice
people.
versa.
Or vice versa.
Let's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's another conversation on its
that is
own.
totally-
Right? Yeah.
If a man or a woman is going to hate you, you will know from the start. No.
Why say no?
Why it's no is that oftentimes perpetrators I don't like the word perpetrators. People who hate or beat up their spouse, they themselves are broken people breaking other people.
That's it.
So it's usually that I'm broken and I don't even understand the extent of my brokenness, so that when a whole host of things pile on top of me, I act out that brokenness, and in some cases it actually shocks them. I mean, those who act it out. Of course, when it's ongoing, now it's a way they're using to kind of express their frustration, disappointment, loneliness, I don't know, all of the negative emotions that they don't have another way of expressing. So for me, I wouldn't say that a person would know from the beginning. Yes, if someone has a narcissistic trait, if you're well educated about what narcissistic traits look like, you can identify that. But if this is not a narcissist, if this is somebody who is broken, you will know they're broken. But do you now know the extent of that brokenness and how it might show up?
Fix him.
Don't a lot of women do that? Even men do that. So for me, I would say, no, I don't know that you can often tell. And again, because we define that abuse is not just physical, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's financial, it's spiritual. If you haven't taken a lot of time to really learn each other during that dating years, how are you going to know?
But another way also, it's because most people, when they're in love, I always say, when you're dating, you're not just dating your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You are dating their DNA, their past. You know, so you're not just looking at him or her and thinking, okay, I can change him or her. Show me their parents, and I'll tell you who they are.
Potentially.
Yeah, until they're willing to change. Because if the father used to beat the mother, and the grandfather used to beat the grandmother, what do you think is going to happen?
What did they learn?
What did they learn? Because they learned something right from the time they were small to what they are today. So the probability of the guy doing the same thing is very much there. The difference is how is he willing to grow? So is he with the right set of community that he's willing, he acknowledges it. He has to acknowledge the fact that, okay, this is what's happening in the family. This is what's happening. How can I get out of it?
Yeah.
But if you don't discuss, if you don't know, you don't discuss about it, you throw it under the carpet, then it's the lady's responsibility also to say, hey, we need to discuss things because I am seeing things I'm not happy about. Even though the guy says, oh, no, I'm not like that. No, he's seen it. He's probably going to be like that. Or if there's another thing in the girl's family, you know that the probability of the girl being like that is there. So why not put everything on the table and say, okay, how can we work things out?
You can listen to the rest of this conversation by searching The Diary of a Niger Immigrant on cgsw.com or wherever you get your podcasts. The Diary of a Niger Immigrant was proudly brought to you through Onyie's Lens. If you like this episode, then you should check out our other episodes. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on whose journey you would like to hear about next on The Diary of a Niger Immigrant. And until next time, I remain Onyie Ekenelbi. Bye now, friends.